The United States is the largest donor to health promotion efforts in the world. This has continued with recent funding for both anti-trafficking initiatives domestically and abroad, as well as the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, also called PEPFAR. The U.S. administration has included little noticed but very politically effective constraints on this funding so that all of this money will only go to organizations that have an official position opposing prostitution. These stipulations began with anti-trafficking funds and quickly and quietly moved into HIV prevention monies. These policies exclude the people and programs most able to identify trafficked persons in the sex industry from U.S.-sponsored funding. ARPA-NOTO works with Empower Foundation in Thailand. This is an organization that has experienced isolation from former partners and allies since the imposition of the U.S. anti-prostitution policy requirement.
Empower ก็ทำงานกับกลุ่มของผู้หญิงบริการค่ะแล้วก็มีเราทำในเรื่องของการให้ความช่วยเหลือเรื่องของด้านการศึกษาด้านความรู้ทักษะชีวิตแล้วก็มีทักษะอาชีพบ้างนิดๆหน่อยๆแต่ว่าเป็นเรื่องของที่ผู้หญิงเขาจะต้องการแบบไหนแล้วก็จะสร้างกิจกรรมแบบนั้นให้เขาเรื่องของด้านสิทธิด้วยอันนี้เป็นเรื่องสำคัญที่เราทำอยู่
Andrew Hunter is a coordinator of the Asia-Pacific Network of Sex Workers.
Because the AIDS industry is so huge, the focus of the US anti-prostitution policies has been the PEPFAR anti-prostitution pledge. Lots of the best projects have been left with nothing. Where those international NGOs, local organisation has had a problematic relationship with sex worker groups, they've used the anti-prostitution pledge as an excuse for further discrimination against sex workers. So I spoke with some young male sex workers in Cambodia. They had been asking at the US-funded clinics about issues of not male-to-male sexual health or HIV prevention, but issues of that they wanted to know as young men about male-to-male sex. And they were one of them said to me that their families told them that if they had anal sex with another man, they'd go crazy. And so they asked the doctors and the counsellors at the clinic, and they were told, we can't answer that question, it's against the USAID anti-prostitution policy.
Pik Sokchia is a member of Women's Network for Unity, a 5,000-strong union of sex workers in Cambodia. She describes the difficulties facing sex workers, which were exacerbated by these restrictions. Their allies abandoned Women's Network for Unity for fear of running afoul of the restrictions.
ដោយសារគោលនយោបាយរបស់សហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកដែលធ្វើឲ្យស្ត្រីរស់ស៊ីភេទនៅកម្ពុជាពិបាកក្នុងការប្រកបមុខរបរដូចជាស្ត្រីទាំងអស់នោះគឺត្រូវដោយសារប៉ូលីសចាប់រំលោភនៃប៉ូលីសធ្វើអំពើហិង្សាដោយសារប៉ូលីសចាប់ស្ត្រីទាំងអស់នោះដោយសារទារលុយឲ្យធ្វើឲ្យមានជើងកាងធ្វើឲ្យពិបាកក្នុងការរស់នៅនិងការរកស៊ីរបស់ស្ត្រី
Gabriela Leche of Devida, a sex workers organization in Rio de Janeiro, was instrumental in Brazil's rejecting the prostitution gag rule.
Anos atrás, nós começamos uma parceria com os fundos da USAID e fechamos oito projetos em 8 associações brasileiras de prostitutas. E logo depois que nós assinamos o contrato e começamos a trabalhar, a desenvolver nossas ações de prevenção em AIDS, nós recebemos um adendo ao contrato que era para assinar contra a prostituição. Nós temos, como prostitutas, muito orgulho de ter tomado essa decisão e somos muito orgulhosas do Programa Nacional de DST-AIDS por ter tomado a decisão formal. Não é o dinheiro que iríamos receber da USAID, mas é um dinheiro do nosso país e que não impõe restrições à nossa organização.
Awa Dembele works with Dana Yasso, a sex workers organization in Mali. It has become harder to secure condoms for sex workers there since the funding restrictions were introduced. Mali is one of the poorest countries of the world, and as economic conditions there worsen, more women resort to sex work.
Même au niveau des femmes libres qui n'ont pas assez d'argent, et même si l'accès est facile, le prix est très élevé par rapport à ce qu'elles gagnent par jour. On a besoin d'argent et il y a plus de femmes qui se prostituent au fur et à mesure.
For 14 years, Meena Seshu has worked with sex workers in Sangli, India. Sex workers throughout India have marched in protest of these restrictions. When Meena's organization, Sangram, refused USAID funding because of the restrictions, they were falsely accused of engaging in trafficking in persons.
From Washington, D.C., there was a newspaper article that was published that said that the funding for Sangram was terminated because of Sangram being involved in trafficking of women and girls. And we were horrified because trafficking is a criminal offense and we have nothing to do with trafficking. This has caused tremendous damage. It has caused tremendous damage to the HIV/AIDS program we were running. It is because the women are in a collective and they're strong and they said that we will not allow this to spoil our lives, that we still continue some amount of work. And I think it's unfortunate that people like women who are the best educators of their male clients, who are leading the fight against HIV all over the world, should be subjected to this humiliation of this kind of rapes.
Pranam Songwang of the Migrants Assistance Program, MAP Foundation, works with Burmese refugees and other migrants in Thailand.
If you would like to get USAID money in the contract, they have some condition to say. One of the clause it said the recipient organization should have a policy to oppose prostitution. When they send in the process, when we send the proposal, we look very carefully on the contract and we found that clause. Because we work with the migrant worker and they are worker. We recognize everyone as a worker. Women who work as domestic worker is a worker. Sex worker who work as a sex worker is a worker. We believe in the principle of protection of every worker, especially women worker. That's why we send the contract back, tell them we can't sign the contract. I think in Thailand, MAP is the first organization who actually did that. Because our strategy is we don't want to just deny and say we don't want the money because we would like to know the conditions of that money. I mean, we believe we have the right to say no or refuse to any policy which is opposed our principle to believe in human rights.
Hajra Begum is a member of Bangladesh's Durjoy Nari Shango, a UNAIDS best practices program that was defunded when the international NGO that granted money to them signed on to the US anti-prostitution pledge.
Durjoy Nari Shango Bangladesh. আমাদের সংগঠনটা শুরু হয় 1998 সনের শেষের দিকে 14 ফেব্রুয়ারি সংগঠন গঠিত হয় আর এইচআইভি নিয়ে কাজ করি আমরা 1998 সনে 97 সনে কেয়ার বাংলাদেশ আসেন এইচআইভি নিয়ে কাজ করতে তখন থেকে আমরা কাজ শুরু করেছি এইচআইভি নিয়ে কাজ করি ঢাকার সিটি না ঢাকার বাইরেও বাংলাদেশের বিভিন্ন জেলায় 3টা জেলায় আমাদের এই এইচআইভি প্রোগ্রাম আমরা কাজ করি সেখানে 20টা ডিএসসি আছে 20টা ডিএসসি ডফিন সেন্টার এখানে আমাদের জনকর্মীদের সব ধরনের সুযোগ সুবিধা আমরা দিতাম ওখানে আমরা বসে করি ওখানে আমাদের সব ধরনের এডুকেশন সন্ধ্যা হলে আমরা ওইখান থেকে বের হয়ে যেতাম আমাদের এলাকায় আমরা জন্য কাজ করতাম কিন্তু সকাল হলে ফিরে আসতাম প্রতি মাসে প্রায় আমরা দুর্জয় নারী সংঘ এই 96 জন আউটরিচ ওয়ার্কার দিয়ে 1,76,000 কন্ডোম আমরা প্রতি মাসে বিক্রি করতাম 2005 এর ডিসেম্বরে আমাদের প্রজেক্টটা বন্ধ হয়ে গেছে তার আগে থেকে বন্ধ হয়ে যাবে কিন্তু ওইটা আমরা অনেক কষ্ট করে টেনে টুনে চলছি এখন তো মোটেই ডিএসসি চলে যায় 4টা ড্রপিং সেন্টার আছে যোগাযোগ কেন্দ্র আছে সেটা শুধু সীমিত জনকর্মীরা অল্প জনকর্মীরা আসে কেন বাচ্চাদের জন্য অথচ কোনো ফল পায় না কেন যে আমি আর মাত্র 3-4 ঘন্টা আছে আমি এই দেশে পর চলে যাব, কিন্তু শেষবারও আমি বলে যাচ্ছি আমাদের অবস্থা খুব খারাপ। দিয়েছি বন্ধ হয়ে যাবো, তখন আমাদের খুব খারাপ লাগছিল। আমরা বারবার যারা ফান্ড দিত তাদের বলছি যে কোনো ব্যবস্থা করেন, নাহলে এতগুলো জনকর্মী কোথায় যাবে। মেলিসা তখন গিয়েছিলেন, গিয়ে দেখছিলেন আমাদের অবস্থাটা। প্রত্যেকটা জনকর্মী খুবই বলছিল যে ভাই আমরা কোথায় যাব। যারা ফান্ড দিতেন তাদের বলতেন কোথায় যাব, কি করব, কোথায় মাঝে গোসল করবো, কোথায় খাবো, কোথায় যাবে আমাদের জনরোগের চিকিৎসাগুলো পাবো, কোথায় আমরা ঠিক মতো করে, কি যে কষ্ট তখন লাগছে। আপনাদের এই কথা তো ওইটা কি করে বলবো যে এই কথাটা কিভাবে অনুভব করবো যে এই কষ্টগুলো আমাদের দূর চলেছে। প্রত্যেকটা মানুষের আমাদের হৃদয় ভেঙে গেছে যে এই কষ্টটা, যে তুই টিএসি থাকবো না, জনকর্মীদের সাথে আর মিশতে পারবো না, আমাদের বোন আমাদের একসাথে আর দেখা হবে না। দূরের এই কষ্টটা সারাক্ষণই অনুভব করছে।
Policy should be based on demonstrated and measurable successes in HIV prevention and treatment, as well as effective efforts to combat trafficking in persons. The inclusion of sex workers and their advocates is a crucial part of creating effective policies, but U.S. funding restrictions prevent sex workers from helping to create responses to trafficking and prostitution. Unfortunately, current policies neglect the real needs of the people who are intended to be assisted by these programs. The anti-prostitution pledge requirement is the result of a too simple and inefficient analysis that claims moral high ground while eclipsing the plight of many trafficked people and sex workers. Their voices have been ignored by U.S. policymakers.